The Wilson house on Maple and 3rd had once been full of laughter, but lately, silence had become its guest. Naomi stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker as her husband, Terrell, paced the yard. Bills sat piled on the dining table, overdue notices, medical insurance, and the car loan they'd stopped paying 3 months ago. Inside, the air was heavy with tension. Terrell finally came in, shoulders slumped, his work boots dragging. "Naomi," he began, "we can't keep living like this. The bills are stacking higher than my pride." Naomi didn't look up. "I know, Terrell, but selling this house is not the answer." He rubbed his head. "We're drowning. The business failed, and my brother can't lend us another dime. We could sell this place, clear everything, and start over." Her tone hardened. "Start over where? This house is all we've got. It's Mama's legacy. She spent her whole life paying for it." Terrell looked around the room, the cracked family portraits, the faded couch, the dusty curtains, all of it screamed, past. "A house don't mean nothing if we starving inside it," he muttered. Naomi's eyes watered. "It means everything when it's the last thing your mother left you." For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of the ticking clock filled the room. Terrell finally sighed. "Then what do we do, Naomi?" She turned toward him, her voice breaking. "We pray, and we hold on. Because once this house is gone, so is our foundation." The silence that followed carried both love and fear. The next morning, Naomi sat at the kitchen table with a cup of black coffee, staring at the mountain of bills that seemed to multiply overnight. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the house until a sharp knock rattled the front door. She frowned. Who could that be this early? When she opened the door, Mr. Jeffries, their elderly neighbor, stood there holding a yellow envelope. His hat tilted low against the morning sun. "Good morning, Naomi," he said softly. "This came to my mailbox by mistake. Looks important." Naomi took the envelope, glanced at the stamp, First National Bank. Her heart skipped. She tore it open and froze. It wasn't just important, it was a foreclosure notice. "Lord have mercy," she whispered, her hands trembling. "This can't be right." Mr. Jeffries' face filled with concern. "Everything okay?" She forced a smile. "Yes, sir. Thank you." She shut the door quietly and walked back to the dining table. Her hands shook as she read the words again. Final warning, loan default. "Terrell," she called out. He came down the hall, half dressed for work. "What's wrong?" She threw the paper on the table. "You didn't tell me we were this far behind on the mortgage." He froze, guilt spreading across his face. I thought I could fix it before you found out." "Fix it?" Naomi's voice cracked. "You hid it from me." He lowered his head. "I didn't want to worry you." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "We're drowning, and you want to sell the only lifeboat we have?" "I'm trying to save us, Naomi," he shot back. She shook her head, voice trembling. "No, Terrell. You're trying to escape your mistakes, and you're taking our home down with you." That night, Naomi couldn't sleep. The house creaked in the quiet darkness, each sound echoing like a whisper from the past. She sat on the living room floor surrounded by photo albums, each one a piece of her family's story. Her fingers brushed across a faded photograph, her mother, Evelyn, smiling in front of the same porch Naomi now sat in. Back then, the paint was new, the flowers alive, and laughter filled the air. Naomi traced her mother's face with trembling hands. "Mama," she whispered, "what would you do if you were me?" In the stillness, it was as if she could hear her mother's voice in her heart. "Never sell what love built." Tears rolled down Naomi's cheeks. She closed the album and looked around. The house might have been old and worn, but it still held warmth, the warmth of memories. The smell of Sunday dinners, the sound of gospel songs from the old radio, the faint marks on the wall where she measured her height as a child, all reminders that this place was more than a building. It was her anchor. The next morning, Naomi dragged herself to the clinic. Her friend Keisha, a fellow nurse, noticed the heaviness in her eyes. "Girl, you look like you ain't slept in a week," Keisha said gently. Naomi sighed. "Terrell wants to sell Mama's house. He says it's the only way out." Keisha frowned. "Bills can crush a man's pride. But don't let fear make your decisions for you." Naomi nodded weakly. "I'm trying. But sometimes I feel like I'm fighting alone." Keisha reached over, squeezing her hand. "You're not alone, sis. You've got faith. You've got that house. And maybe, just maybe, God's not done with you yet." Naomi smiled faintly, holding on to that last line like a lifeline. 2 weeks passed, and the weight of unpaid bills grew heavier on Terrell's shoulders. Every ring of the phone made him flinch, afraid it was another creditor. He sat on the porch late into the night, staring at the old oak tree in the yard, the same one he'd once promised Naomi he'd build a swing for their future children. Those dreams now felt distant, buried under overdue notices and sleepless nights. One Saturday morning, Naomi was folding laundry when Terrell walked in, face glowing with unusual excitement. "Naomi," he said quickly, "I found a buyer." She froze, the towel slipping from her hands. "A buyer? For what?" "The house," he said confidently. "I talked to a real estate investor from Atlanta, said he'll pay cash. Enough to clear all our debts and maybe even start over somewhere new." Naomi turned slowly, disbelief in her eyes. "You did what? Baby, just listen." "No, you listen." Her voice rose sharply. "You went behind my back? After everything we talked about." Terrell's tone hardened. "I'm trying to save us, Naomi. This is a fresh start." "A fresh start," she repeated bitterly. "Where do we start from? A one-bedroom apartment downtown? Paying rent to someone else? I'm not giving up the only thing my mother left me because you're tired of trying." He slammed his palm on the table. "So you'd rather see us sink?" Naomi's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed firm. "I'd rather rebuild slowly than sell my soul for quick relief." The room fell silent. The ticking clock between them sounded like judgment. Terrell sank into a chair, defeated. "You just don't understand, Naomi." She whispered, "No, Terrell. You're the one who doesn't understand. You can't fix what's broken by selling what's sacred." And with that, she turned away, leaving him to wrestle with his pride and his choices. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Naomi and Terrell barely spoke except about necessities. The laughter that once filled the house had disappeared, replaced by the hum of worry and unspoken resentment. Every meal felt like a courtroom. One evening, as Naomi was cleaning the dishes, she overheard Terrell talking quietly in the living room. His voice was low, but the words pierced her. "I told you, Mr. Carter, she'll come around. Just give me time." Naomi froze, a glass slipping from her hand and shattering in the sink. She stepped into the living room, her voice trembling. "Mr. Carter? The investor." Terrell's face drained of color. "Naomi, I can explain." "You already did," she snapped. "You plan to sell this house behind my back?" "It's not like that," he shouted. "I'm trying to fix things. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand what this home means. Every nail, every brick, it's my mother's blood and sweat." He ran his hands through his hair. "I'm trying to be the man of this house." "Then act like one," she whispered. "Because real men build, Terrell. They don't sell their family's legacy for comfort." He turned away, too ashamed to respond. That night, Naomi slept in the guest room. And for the first time, the house felt colder, like it knew love was leaving through its walls. The next morning, Naomi was ironing her uniform when she heard a car pull up. A sleek black Mercedes parked in front of the house. A man in a tailored suit stepped out, carrying a briefcase. Terrell called out nervously, "Naomi, this is Aaron Carter, the investor I mentioned." Naomi froze, iron mid-air. "You brought him here?" Aaron smiled politely. "Mrs. Wilson, pleasure to meet you. I understand you're considering selling." She crossed her arms. "We're not selling anything." He chuckled lightly. "Everything has a price, ma'am. Especially property in this neighborhood. Market's hot. I can close in 3 days." Naomi stared him down. "Some things aren't for sale. Not this one." Terrell shifted uneasily. "Can we at least hear him out?" "No," she said sharply. "We're done." Aaron gave a faint smirk. "I'll leave my card." Sometimes hearts change when bills pile higher than pride. Naomi's jaw clenched. After he left, she turned to Terrell. "You embarrassed me today." "I was only trying to." She cut him off. "To what? Sell our story to a stranger." For a moment, Terrell's face softened with guilt. But by then, Naomi had already walked out of the room, and maybe out of patience too. That night, Naomi's phone rang. The caller ID read First National Bank. Her heart raced as she answered. "Mrs. Wilson," said a calm voice, "we're calling to confirm the second mortgage application submitted this week. Do you have a moment to verify your signature?" Naomi blinked. "Second mortgage? What application?" "Your husband, Mr. Terrell Wilson, applied using your late mother's deed as collateral." Her hands trembled. "He did what?" After the call, she sat in shock. When Terrell returned home, she was waiting. "You mortgaged Mama's house?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. "I thought I could fix things before you found out." Her tears flowed freely. "You took the one thing she left us and gambled it." "I was desperate, Naomi," he said, voice cracking. "You think I like living like this? Watching you worry every night." She shook her head. "You keep saying you're doing this for us, but everything you do pulls us further apart." Terrell fell silent, guilt washing over him. "I just wanted to be the man you could count on." Naomi whispered, "Then start by being honest. That's the only currency love can't run out of." That night, she slept alone again, not from anger, but heartbreak. The next morning, Naomi packed a small bag. The weight of betrayal pressed heavy on her chest. She paused by her mother's framed photo in the hallway. "Mama, I'm not leaving you," she whispered. "I'm just leaving the pain." When Terrell saw her with the suitcase, panic set in. "Naomi, please don't do this." She faced him, tears streaming. "I need space, Terrell. I can't breathe in this house right now." He reached for her hand. "I'll fix it, I swear." She pulled away gently. "You can't fix what you won't admit is broken." She walked out quietly. The morning sun hit her face as she loaded the bag into her car. When she drove off, she glanced in the rearview mirror. The old house looked smaller, lonelier. The porch light flickered as if waving goodbye. Inside, Terrell sat on the edge of the couch, his head in his hands. For the first time, he realized what he'd lost wasn't just trust, it was home itself. Naomi arrived at Keisha's apartment that evening, her face weary. Keisha opened the door and hugged her tightly. "Girl, I knew something was wrong. Come in." Naomi dropped her bag, exhaling deeply. "I just couldn't stay. Not after what he did." Keisha poured her a cup of chamomile tea and sat beside her. "Bills can make people do foolish things. But deceit. That cuts deeper than debt. Naomi nodded, her voice low. He's not a bad man. Just lost. But I can't keep covering wounds he won't heal. Keisha placed a hand on her shoulder. Then maybe this space is what both of y'all need. You to breathe, him to reflect. Naomi managed a sad smile. That house means everything to me. It's not just a home, it's history. If I let it go, I lose my roots. Keisha smiled softly. Then fight for it, sis. Even if it means fighting him. Naomi looked out the window, city lights blinking below. Somewhere deep inside, faith flickered, small, but alive. She whispered, Mama didn't raise a quitter. And that night, Naomi slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, not because the pain was gone, but because she had found her strength again. A few days later, while sorting through the bag she had packed in haste, Naomi found her mother's old Bible. Its leather cover was cracked, its pages worn soft with time. A folded note fell out from between the Psalms. Her heart skipped as she unfolded it. In her mother's delicate handwriting, the words read, If life ever shakes your home, remember this. Walls can fall, but hearts rebuilt in truth will stand forever. Don't sell your peace for comfort. Rebuild it with love. Tears welled up in Naomi's eyes. She read the letter again and again, feeling her mother's spirit close. That note became a message straight from heaven. Later that evening, she called Keisha into the room. Look what I found, she said softly, handing her the letter. Keisha read it and smiled. That's a word right there, sis. Sounds like she's still guiding you. Naomi nodded. She is. And she's telling me not to give up. That night, she opened her laptop and began researching homeowner grants and relief programs. If Terrell had made mistakes, she would make moves. She wasn't just fighting for a house anymore. She was fighting for her legacy. As she stared at the glowing screen, determination filled her heart. Mama, she whispered, I'm gonna fix this. You'll see. The Wilson house would stand again, and so would she. The next morning, Naomi sat in a small community housing office downtown. The walls were lined with posters about financial aid, foreclosure prevention, and homeowner support programs. She had found the address online the night before and decided to take action. Across from her sat Mrs. Daniels, a kind woman with short gray curls and warm brown skin. Mrs. Wilson, she said, scanning the papers, you're not alone. The city has a new home recovery grant for families behind on mortgage payments. You could qualify. Naomi's eyes widened. Really? I can save the house. Mrs. Daniels smiled. Yes, ma'am. You just need stable income proof for the next 6 months and some documents from your bank. Hope flooded Naomi's chest. She gripped the woman's hands. Thank you, ma'am. I'll find a way. That evening, Naomi took on extra nursing shifts at the clinic and began freelancing as a home care aide. She came home late every night, exhausted but determined. Meanwhile, Terrell noticed her absence. When she finally came by one weekend to gather mail, he looked at her like a man humbled by life. You're fighting for the house, after everything I did? Naomi nodded quietly. Because it's still ours, Terrell. I'm just not giving up like you did. He swallowed hard. Maybe it's time I learn from you instead of trying to control everything. It was the first time in months that his voice carried humility instead of pride. Naomi saw something new in him that night, the man she fell in love with slowly re-emerging. A week later, Naomi returned to the old house to meet the city inspector. Rain poured heavily, soaking the front yard. Terrell opened the door before she could knock. You didn't have to come in this storm, he said softly. I did, she replied. This house needs repairs before the grant's approved. He handed her an umbrella. Then let's fix it together. They spent the day patching leaks, cleaning gutters, and fixing broken windows. It was hard, messy work, but something beautiful began to happen. The silence between them broke. Between hammer strikes and soaked laughter, they started talking again. At one point, Naomi slipped on the wet porch. Terrell caught her before she fell. Their eyes met for a long, quiet moment. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Yeah, I think I am." When the inspector arrived later, he smiled approvingly. "It's clear you two care about this place. That matters." As the rain slowed, Naomi stood under the porch roof, watching the droplets fall. "Maybe storms don't come to destroy," she said softly. "Maybe they come to reveal who's still standing." Terrell looked at her, the words sinking deep. "And I want to stand with you, Naomi. I really do." For the first time in months, she believed him. The weeks that followed were full of long days and shared effort. Naomi managed the paperwork for the grant while Terrell picked up part-time construction work at a nearby site. Every evening, he came home covered in dust, but with a sense of pride Naomi hadn't seen in years. One night, she found him fixing the porch rail. "You've been at it for hours," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Feels good to build something with my hands again. Feels like redemption." She leaned against the doorway, watching him. "I'm proud of you, Terrell." He paused, hammer mid-air. "You mean that?" Naomi nodded. "Yeah, we've both made mistakes. But maybe this house isn't just Mama's inheritance. Maybe it's our second chance." He walked up to her, eyes glistening. "You always saw what I couldn't." She smiled. "That's what love does. It sees past the storm." Together, they sanded, painted, and repaired. The Wilson house began to look alive again, brighter walls, clean floors, and laughter echoing faintly in its halls once more. When the mail finally brought their grant approval, Naomi hugged the envelope to her chest. "We did it," she whispered. Terrell smiled. "No, you did it." Naomi looked at him and said softly, "No, Terrell, we did." Months later, the house stood proud again, newly painted, steady, and peaceful. Naomi tended to the garden her mother once loved, planting fresh daisies along the walkway. Terrell returned home each evening on time, carrying groceries instead of guilt. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Terrell took her hand. "I owe you an apology I can't fit into words," he said. "I was blinded by fear. I thought being a man meant fixing things alone." Naomi squeezed his hand gently. "Being a man means standing beside your woman, not above her." He smiled through misty eyes. "You saved this house, and me." Naomi leaned her head on his shoulder. "We saved each other. God just gave us another chance." From across the street, Mr. Jeffries waved. "Looks like the Wilsons are back stronger than ever," he called out. They both laughed, waving back. Inside, Naomi passed the framed Bible verse her mother once marked, "A wise woman builds her home." She touched the glass and whispered, "I did it, Mama." The peace in her heart told her. Her mother heard her loud and clear. A year later, the Wilson home hosted a neighborhood barbecue. Children played in the yard, the smell of grilled corn filled the air, and gospel music played softly from a speaker. Naomi wore her favorite yellow sundress, her laughter bright and full again. Terrell flipped burgers, joking with neighbors who once whispered about their troubles. Keisha arrived with her husband, carrying a cake. "Look at you two," she teased. "You turned this house into a miracle." Naomi smiled. "It's more than a house now. It's a reminder of what faith can rebuild." Later that evening, as the guests left, Naomi stood alone on the porch. The sunset painted the sky gold. She looked around at the glowing windows, the mended porch, the blooming flowers. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered. "You didn't just save my house. You saved my heart." Terrell came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You thinking about your mama again? Naomi smiled through gentle tears. Yeah, I hope she's proud. She is, he said. Because this house didn't just hold dreams, it held grace. They stood together, watching the stars appear, knowing that love, like a strong foundation, could survive any storm. Never sell your legacy to escape your struggle. A home built with love is more valuable than wealth bought with compromise. With faith, patience, and honesty, even the broken can be rebuilt.